welcome to a new episode of the InfoTech Growth Partner Podcast, the podcast where the future of IT unfolds, and we dive deep into the pertinent developments in regards to IT and data with leaders and experts within the IT consulting field. My name is Jasper, and today I have the distinct pleasure to have Remy from samhoud with me. Remy is a lead partner, people and AI within samhoud, and it's an honor to have you on the show. Remy, welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, well, it's been great to have you. For all of the listeners, can you just give us a quick introduction about your background, what you guys do at samhoud, and what your role within the company is?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been working already for 12 years at samhoud Consultancy, and samhoud is a Dutch-based consultancy both in Utrecht and Amsterdam. And we are really focused on change management. So we assist leaders in creating breakthroughs, really by inspiring, connecting people. And we do that with 4 different practices. So one is more around organizational and behavioral change, and one about leadership and team. And then the practice where I'm leading is the people, tech and AI practice. And I think we're a bit beyond the traditional consultancy. So we really solve strategic issues, but we do that by really looking at human interactions and behavior. And by that, we look at what are the drivers in the system that influence behavior and how to change those drivers. But in that process, we also use AI to identify our own blind spots or at clients, and also to see how you can create optimal collaboration. And there we really look at also the art of change. So with that we mean, how can you also rationally but also emotionally touch people and motivate them intrinsically, because we really believe that change does not come from processes, but change comes from people. So that's what samhoud already does for 35 years, mostly at C-level, at clients in different organizations in Netherlands, but we also have an office in Kuala Lumpur. And for me, I enjoyed working there already so much for 12 years. I have a background in business studies, both in Copenhagen and Harvard, so an international background, but rooted in Amsterdam, where I'm living.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And to already just dive in, you've just hinted that there's a lot more to technological change than only the technology. Of course, there's a lot of change management and people behind it. Most people and organizations tend to focus more on the technical and the financial aspects of technology and what the actual value is that it will bring them within the business. From your perspective, why are change management, adoption, and the people just as important, or perhaps even more important?
Yeah, really good question, and it's something so interesting to see in the industry that people often from IT background naturally focus on the technical side, but then if you look at why our transformation is not working, it's often rooted in the behaviors, in the collaboration, in also people's opinion about technology. So that's really why we call it people and AI transformations, because that's where change starts. So also if you look at AI, I believe, and it's not my own quote unfortunately, but AI is not going to take over jobs. People working with AI will take over jobs. And that's why we really focus on that people side, because that's where you get the optimal interaction, and we believe that AI is not something that can work autonomously at a level where it can do everything by itself. You always need that interaction to see where are humans better and where is AI better. And there was a really interesting study done as well by BCG and Harvard, where they were interviewing and observing consultants for a long time performing different tasks. And they would give them ChatGPT to see if they would perform better or less. And actually first they gave them a task where they knew that ChatGPT was good at. And it was interesting that they saw people were 40% more effective in their outcomes, so the quality was better, and their speed increased by 25% compared to a group that didn't use ChatGPT. But afterwards they gave the people an assignment where they knew that AI was not capable of, which was comparing different data sets, combining them with text interview data. And there actually you would expect people using ChatGPT would maybe perform at the same level, but they're even performing worse than people not using ChatGPT because they were blindly trusting them, even though before that they were being told what the limitations are. So that for me really shows that AI is not just a technology you can unleash or give people access to. You really need to see like where do you get the optimal collaboration and where do you still need humans in the loop or have tasks where AI shouldn't be involved in at all.
Wow. And especially that example that what you mentioned, like indeed, most people, most companies are thinking that AI is going to change a lot of things, which it will, and it already is doing.
Yeah.
But again, it also depends on the context, depends on the people that are dealing with it, depends on how you collaborate within a team or within a company and actually apply the technology to the things that you're trying to get out of it. So that's actually a very good example that you just shared. Of course, I often speak with companies similar to yours, or at least companies that are involved in, let's say, IT services, IT consulting, big projects. And well, for example, they deliver an application, a system, a platform for their clients. But then, even though the clients have mentioned that this is what they want and what they need, the adoption tends to be relatively low afterwards. Can you share us maybe from the people standpoint, from the change management standpoint, what causes that people are not adopting to these new applications, and how those IT related companies, so the companies delivering those things, should and their clients, of course, together should address this?
Yeah, excellent question, because it's such a big issue where there was a study that showed that 40% of IT projects do not get adopted, and with AI it was 80%. So even there it was higher. And that's also for us another reason why we're really focusing on the human side, because you can create such a beautiful solution, but if it doesn't get adopted, there's no value in it. And for me, it really lies in two things you have to do to create successful adoption. The first one is an organizational change process. The second one is looking at an individual adoption. So the organizational part is about how do you make sure that you create the urgency and excitement in the organization for adopting the change? How do you create also leadership behavior and role modeling where the social norms change, where you see maybe the CEO or the leaders in the organization using it or showing the desired behaviors, but also create a leading coalition where you get people that have informal influence in the organization to adopt it early and also use them as a use case to show that it's being used. And also having a good vision and strategy. So if you do not put this technology and adoption in the core of what your organization tries to achieve, it will always be a side project that it's not going to be important. So those are a few elements that we see for an organizational change process should be included. Then on the individual one, you really have to look at not the behavior itself, but what is driving these behaviors. So if I'm not using a technology, that can be because there's no social norm that enforces it, there's not the right training, I don't have the capabilities for it. So if you know what are the drivers that are causing this, then you can intervene in the system. Otherwise, you're just on a superficial level creating excitement and having people try it on, but it's not sustainable. So if you look at those deeper drivers on more of the formal system, which can be in procedures or trainings, but also the norms in the team and the culture, then you really create successful adoption. And what is interesting that I also really see is that there is different personas in organizations. So you cannot do one change process for everyone. You should really look at, based on these target groups or personas or someone's attitude towards technology, what approach works best for them and what drives them and what resistance can be below it that is hindering it, but also might help people to use it more. So also not just focus on the negative things, but also your interventions on what is already going well and how can you lift up that desired behavior.
And I think it's a good realization that every change, and in this case whether it's a system or application that you implement, it's people that are behind it and that are actually going to use it. It's not again, well, the business is using it, but it's the people within the business that have to use it, have to see the value of it, have to understand how to use it, have to see that it's actually helping them in their daily work, instead of something that is just pushed down by management or whoever that says, well, this is something that we need. That's a very good realization and something to keep in the back of your mind at every time, that this is for people and people are dealing with this.
Yeah, and it's, I think, also a really nice one with now everybody's starting to use Copilot, the new AI-powered solution of Microsoft, of having ChatGPT in all your programs. And there you often see that, this tool is being put out, people do a pilot with it, but they don't get the right training or there's no process around it. And then maybe can only take some notes and people will stop using it. And we've actually took this into a different way, because we thought we also have to practice what we preach, that we put up a really entire program around it. So we had Copilot instructors that in a Top Gun Tom Cruise suit were walking through the office, making people excited for it, but also having our CEO like really in every meeting using it and asking, hey, if you turn it on, what's your best prompt of the day? And also create a platform for people to share it. And what we learned was one of the most useful things was that these Copilot instructors were just walking through the office and were doing one-on-one coaching with people in the moment when we were doing a task that they could use Copilot on. And especially because this was not in a classroom setting where people might be scared to speak up. And this was not somebody that was hierarchically your leader, but somebody where you could ask any question, stupid questions, very smart questions, but really about your daily use. That really stimulated and like took off our Copilot use. Even so much that Microsoft mentioned us as best practice and made a video case study that will be launched next week, where they actually were investigating like what are the different steps that and samhoud did ourselves, but also with our clients to get this high adoption.
Yeah, and I think that's a good testament of how you started using Copilot, because Microsoft is only, of course, wants to share and work with companies and people that are actually helping them, or at least showcasing the value of their solutions. So that's actually a good testament of how well you've been doing with such solutions such as Copilot. And I think that brings us into the next sort of topic that we want to discuss. Within and samhoud, you have been using AI internally for a couple of years already, even before, let's say, the real breakthrough of 1-2 years ago, where actually ChatGPT became very public. Can you talk about how you use and apply AI internally within samhoud?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I have a double role where I both advise clients on this topic, but I'm also the internal head of data and AI, which really also helped me understand on how to tackle the issues I see at clients. And I got into this role 3-4 years ago, and then we were discovering the first elements of GPT-3 before anybody had access to it. And we were doing little tests with it. We took all the LinkedIn messages from our CEO and created new ones in the same tone of voice and asked people if they could distinguish them from real or not, just as like a first test case. So we had a lot of fun with it. And then actually when ChatGPT came out, we were kind of sad, because our little magic tool where we could write emails within a second or do an analysis got taken over by everyone. So we also had to innovate, okay, how can we use it in not just a gimmick or fun way, but really fundamentally in our core processes. So there we actually did two things. And one is really investigating what are the tasks where people are spending too much time on that are redundant, less of joy giving to their work or inefficient, where AI could be used. And really looking at all those processes, not just on one little task, but the entire process. We based on that, like where should we start, maybe looking for tools or building our own tools that can create our AI first strategy, which really contains, if AI can do it better, why should we let a human do it? And we really have the hypothesis that we can be 20 or maybe 50% more efficient if we use AI in all our processes. So one example of this is that we build an interview analyzer, because much of our work It's basically an analyzation phase and also an implementation. And in that first phase, we do interviews with everyone, with the entire board, with different business leaders, with the HR department. And yeah, you get so much data. And before, with this text data, you couldn't really use AI because the traditional AI was just based on quantitative, fully labeled data sets. But now with generative AI, we can build a model that's able to go through all these 50 interviews. So that's maybe 50,000 pages of text, and is able to already do a first analysis of the key topics, what are maybe issues that we missed in our questionnaire that we should add in the following interviews we're doing, and also ready to come with a first analysis that we can build to further validate our insights, where we see that it's not good enough to have a one-time good correct answer, but it saves so much time in typing out all the interviews and doing that first summary, so the consultants can really focus at where are they best at, and that's interpreting data, analyzing that, and putting that in perspective. So yeah, that's an example how we really use it in our core processes. And the other one is that we also see how can we use our knowledge within and samhoud to make that available for everyone with AI. And there we built a little tool called the Bias Checker, which is a website that we made available for everyone on samhoud.ai. And basically what you can do is put in any text, which can be an email or a newsletter or a LinkedIn post or a document. And based on that text and a library with all the scientific research we've done on biases. So an example of a bias is the confirmation bias, where you look for information that already confirms your pre-existing beliefs. That actually, with ChatGPT and this scientific library, it gives you a spot of your possible blind spots and also how to mitigate them, just as a way of waking up for yourself, like, hey, maybe here unintentionally I have this bias in my text, and this is a way how you could also work with it, or what the effect will be of that bias on your audience. So there it's really about using all this knowledge we have in samhoud and make it also available for our clients, but also our consultants to use.
Yeah, and especially the first solution that you mentioned, like being able to summarize and get out the key points of a whole lot of interviews.
Yeah.
So your consultants can focus on the things that they're actually valuable and valuable to your clients. That's already a showcase of the actual business value, instead of them having to type out and read and listen, etc. It's a good way to get those insights with a click of a button, probably in some seconds or even minutes. So that's actually a good example of actual business value. And something that stood out to me that you mentioned yourself, you were a bit sad when AI came more public in the last couple of years. But there's also probably also a benefit because it's getting more mainstream and companies are realizing that they need to do something with AI. That's also an opportunity for you guys.
Yeah.
Because you're helping these companies implement it in a good way. Can you maybe share some examples of successful projects or projects that are still going that you are doing with clients in terms of AI?
Yeah, definitely. And on your first topic or comment, it's a really good one because on the one hand, it really provides an opportunity. On the other hand, also because it became so popular, you also see AI is being misused. So people use it for fun gimmicks, to make a little song with it, or they put the word AI on everything they're doing, even though it's not AI, which of course can be fun and can be creative, but it's not creating that business impact that you were talking about. And there, if you really want to create impact, you have to look at your core processes and take that from a vision and strategy point of view, rather than just dropping in a toolbox, using it as an entertainment way, because then you're not creating real lasting change where you either promote customer satisfaction or employee satisfaction, or be able to make things more efficient. That's, I think, to your comment that you need to create business impact and not just use it as a gimmick or the greenwashing that's kind of being done with AI. And fun and client projects that we've been working on. A really nice one that I can share is that we're creating the first AI ballet. We're doing that with the National Opera and Ballet in Amsterdam, where 4 or 5 years ago we made the first VR ballet performance. So we know their choreographer and the audience pretty well. But here we're really looking like how can in the art sector be AI applied to create a new choreography. And especially what we're interested in is the behavioral side. So how does the ballerina interact with the AI? How is it different for the audience? Do they spot the difference of an AI generated ballet or do they not? And we're also trying to see, can we use AI to have the audience interact with the people and with the performance? So if they can type in, for example, a style that they would like to see, that the AI can immediately transfer that into a new dance and the ballerina can perform that. So in that way also seeing like, does that change also how people are perceiving art? And that's also a beautiful analogy for organizations. So yeah, if you see that a ballet performance is kind of the same as an organizational system where you have an audience who could be your clients, you have performers, you have people thinking about it, which might be more of the leaders. Yeah, then you also have to see how do you create this optimal collaboration. So that's what we're really interested from a behavioral point as well. So that's one where I'm really passionate about, and we're still in the process. In 2 months there will be a big premiere where we're inviting as well our clients and network. So that's a really one I'm proud of. And another one is that we're like one of the core practices we have is leadership development, where we do not believe that's just a training approach where you put all leaders in a classroom and say, okay, from now on this is your new behavior or this is how you should change. We really see it as an integral program, and there we're really looking with the client, okay, how can we make AI part of it? So create, for example, micro challenges through the process of different sessions where you're together, where, for example, you have AI as a shadowing coach that you can ask questions after a meeting. Did I involve all perspectives during this meeting? Did I let everybody have equal speaking time? Do you have feedback on how I was creating psychological safety for people to speak up? So to really see, can you create a personal coach for people also to really practice in daily work? And also connect that to kind of more gamification elements where people are also practicing the behavior on their phone in simulation settings, where also you can give them assignments with AI to practice with. For example, if they get their feedback report, give it to AI and see what they see as your biggest development points, because you also look from your own lens to that feedback. But it's also very valuable to see if AI as a sparring partner spots different things. So that's another example where we really see as AI is a mirror that can improve your own leadership skills and be really part of a leadership development program.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And you can see there's a lot of unknown use cases for a lot of things that AI can help you with. Everyone knows the obvious ones, but again, there's so much possibilities as long as you're willing to be open to it and actually, I think, test things. Just try it and just do it and see how it works. On that note, and you've already talked about AI itself not taking the jobs of people, but people working with AI. In that sense, in what way does AI influence not just the business, as we've already talked about, but also the necessary skills and leadership style that people within those businesses should adapt to?
Yeah, I think the main one is really your adaptation power. So how quickly are you able to learn new skills, change how you are interacting with your environment? Because in the past we saw that you go to school, you learn and practice, and then you'll do that for the coming 40 years in the same company. And of course, this is a very short summary, but now we see that the skills that people learn in school or university are being outdated way faster because there's new technologies coming around. The world is changing way faster. With globalization, you have different influences and other people as well entering the job market. And at the same time, we have a huge shortage. So there, for a leader, you should really see how can AI be used as a way to elevate our employees. So kind of they're having now access to kind of superhumans. Because if you have ChatGPT that is already at the level of a university student, that it can give answers. It's not a perfect way, but if you look at how fast it's developing in the last 1.5 years, if you take that parallel and connect it to the coming 3 years, you're going to lead people that have access to artificial intelligence that might be smarter than you. And that for a leader requires a really different way, where maybe they became a leader because they were the smartest in the room. But now maybe as a leader, you need to be the most empathic person that really spot how people are doing, or the most visionary, or the most best at evaluating different options. Because I think those three are really skills where AI is not good at. It can like come up with different options, but to evaluate which one is best is often not a case of is it A or B, or is the one higher or better. It's really about what do you value as an organization, and what is your brand, and what is your vision. And I think that's always where humans should be in the loop, and also really checking in on how people are doing, how do you help them in their development, how do you also support people that might need extra attention, and those are leadership skills that AI is not able to perform. So I think there really for leaders, it's about seeing about what are the skills of the future, how do you develop yourself continuously, but also increase the adaptive power of the people that you're working with, so they also stay relevant in the job market and are able to learn faster, be more adaptive, and learn also to experiment more.
Wow. Yeah, and I think that's what we're beginning to realize, that there's way more to AI than just implementing a tool and a technology, and there's so much personal things behind it, and leadership, and people working together, and adoption, and those types of things, which I think is only going to grow and become more complicated in the future as well, as those tools become more advanced themselves. I think we've discussed a whole lot. Given your years of experience, can you give us an insight on the developments that you see happening in the next couple of years in the areas such as we talked about change management, AI, technological adoptions, and how people, but also companies, should prepare for these developments?
Yeah, I think the most important topic we haven't touched upon is the ethical side. So that will only become more important, and not just from our regulations, which are also good, that there are the right guardrails, but also about what role do we want AI to take in the organization, and how much freedom or responsibility do we want to give it. And I think there it's really about creating the right environment, that you also have deeper conversations with your employees about what emotions does AI trigger, what resistance do you might have, and what is this caused by, what kind of fear might be below it, and also what do we value as humans most, and what do we value that AI can take over. And I think if you do not have those important ethical or maybe even philosophical existential conversations, it's also going past what is really important in the work, and that's also interaction, creating value, being really conscious about what do you want to do and what is your vision that you're operating from. Where also, if you do not do it, probably there will be incidents or there will be resistance on the water that people do not have the space to talk about. And that will also not help your adoption and the change that you want to achieve in the organization. So I think that is becoming a more and more increasingly topic about the data security, the ethical parts of it, and using it responsibly in the right way.
Yeah, again, there's a whole lot more to it than just the technological change. Awesome. I think we had a very good discussion, Remy. Thanks for being here. If there's someone listening and wants to learn more about you, about samhoud, about AI and adoption, those types of things, where can they find you?
Yeah, great. And thank you so much, Jasper, for inviting, because it's so fun to talk about this topic. And I'm sad that we're already at the end of it. So if people love to continue talking more about it, go to my LinkedIn, Remy Middelhoff, and send me a connection and a message, and I'll respond there to you. But also feel free to check out our website, samhoud.com, samhoud.com. Or if you want to use the bias checker, that's samhoud.ai, so that's also free to use. And also curious, there's a feedback form to also learn what did you use it for, so we can also improve the tools that we're building for everyone.
Great. I will make sure those links are in the description as well, so people can find it. Thanks again, Remy, and thanks for sharing all of those insights.
Thank you so much for the invitation.